Welcome back to another interview here on the Security Token Show. Today we're covering something really interesting because we've covered on the show before. We've talked about it in the What's Drippin' newsletter, but now we have 2 out of the 3 core founding members of this new thing that we now know as Lynq Network. We're joined by JD from Arca Labs and Alan from tZERO. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Doing great, Jason. Great to be with you today.
How are you? Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. Really exciting news that you guys are working on here. You know, I've explained it in the past, as mentioned, right? You guys are doing yield-bearing settlements here, but I think it's always easiest to hear it directly from the source. So give us a quick overview on what Lynq Network is and what you're working on.
Awesome, Jason. Thanks again. Well, today we're really proud to announce the addition of one of our newest and most important members of the consortium we've been creating. Today we announced Crypto.com is actually going to be one of our launch partners to help support liquidity on the platform we've been building. So we've been building alongside of our partners Tassat and tZERO for the past 18 months now, a real-time yield-bearing settlement network that leverages a couple of really important pieces here. The first piece that it leverages is a technology that's known to the marketplace. We're working with Tassat, and Tassat's developed a technology that was really the standard for real-time settlement within banking infrastructure. We've taken the technology and we've retrofitted it for a broker-dealer infrastructure in partnership with our key partner here, which is tZERO, which operates both a broker-dealer and a special purpose broker-dealer that play very specific roles in the implementation that we're actually delivering.
Awesome. Let's talk about those roles, because there's 3 of you involved here, plus a few others on your launch partner side. But maybe starting with Alan here, tell us about what that differentiator is with a special purpose broker-dealer in terms of how it plays a specific role in the Lynq Network.
Terrific. And we're really delighted to partner with Arca, Tassat, and other stakeholders in this ecosystem. What we've put together is a really unique offering that takes some legacy know-how, technology, and use cases and applies them in a very new and I think very forward-thinking frame to enable real-time settlement of obligations using tokenized securities. As tZERO, we are powering the system in a couple of ways. First, as a broker-dealer that supports customer accounts and the platform where the functions are going to be executed, including through our alternative trading system. And secondarily, as a custodian through our special purpose broker-dealer that was approved in Q3 of last year and operationalized later in 2024. The special purpose broker-dealer is one of only 2 in the United States, and it allows us to custody digital asset securities, of which these fund interests will be one, in a way that really delivers end-to-end seamless broker-dealer powered solution to the marketplace that is very low touch from a user perspective and delivers the functionality and security of broker-dealer supported digital asset security custody.
Very nice. Appreciate that. And that makes sense. I think that plays a role, right, with this new thing that you guys are working on called yield in transit. Essentially what my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's if I'm a user on Lynq Network, I'm going to be, instead of settling maybe in cash, I'll settle with this new Arca ran liquidity fund. But JD, maybe tell us a little bit more about TFND. I know it runs on Avalanche, but what's its exact role here?
That's exactly right. So we're fortunate enough to have had a background in actually creating funds. Most people know of Arca from its trading operation, but we also have had significant experience in creating registered products. Arca began creating registered products dating back to 2018 when we created the first 40 Act fund that issued its shares as digital asset securities. So that's well in advance of what people have been doing lately. Franklin Templeton and Wisdom Tree and BlackRock. We really paved the way for that. So over the course of that time, we've gained experience in operating these funds and understanding the properties of these actual digital asset securities that are created. In this implementation, we've actually taken a private fund, a 506c fund, and that fund itself issues its shares on the Avalanche blockchain. The Avalanche blockchain then obviously is important for us, not just because of its stability and speed, but also for the transparency that it actually allows for users to understand how many shares have been issued. So they can always see a one-to-one balance between what's actually been issued by the fund and what's on the platform. The shares themselves actually are held in custody by the special purpose broker-dealer that's operated by tZERO. Those shares are then replicated on a private permission blockchain, and they're allowed to be transferred back and forth between counterparties in order to satisfy obligations. One of the cool parts about it, Jason, is that using this fund, which has a portfolio of U.S. Treasuries, it actually generates yield, and that yield actually gets passed back to its users, and done so in a very, very cool way. The Tassat team actually created a technology, an algorithm that, believe it or not, is actually patent pending. That technology is able to go ahead and analyze the amount of time that a user, an institutional client on the platform, holds that actual position for, and then can allocate that yield at the end of the day based upon the amount of time you've had it. So in the most simplest form, if you held it for half a day, you receive half the interest that's generated, and that's then delivered in kind via a token that's then sent on the Avalanche blockchain. It's actually a security token, and then held in custody, and then those shares are represented again on the platform. So the yield in transit properties are really important for the industry, especially as most of the users out there right now are clamoring for interest in yield, and that's one of the main reasons why you start hearing a lot about these yield-bearing stable tokens and other things out there.
Yeah, and we believe that we are delivering that product in a compliant way that satisfies among other things, the securities laws rules as they stand now with respect to yield-bearing stable coins, which we believe constitute securities for federal law purposes. And we have a frame that's broker-dealer enabled, that is that special purpose broker-dealer supported from a custody perspective. That's really the only end-to-end location for fully tokenized digital asset securities that exists, and to deliver the seamless user experience. And it's also supported by Arca, thoughtfully putting together a compliant private fund product and then offering and maintaining it in a compliant way.
Fantastic. I want to dive into a couple of things you guys just touched on here a bit deeper. But for anyone that's watching on the Security Token Show, we're going to move on to the next section. That being said, this interview will be fully available on YouTube on STM TV Official. So go ahead and check it out there. JD, Alan, from what I read, it's down to, I think, 5 seconds to knowing, how long a user, holds TFND. I do have to ask the opposite, though. If I'm a user on the platform and I run out of TFND to settle a transaction here, am I still susceptible to traditional market hours, or can I default back to cash to finish my transaction? What happens in that instance?
Yeah, Jason, it's a great question. It's one that we get a lot. And, one of the benefits of the platform that we have, obviously, is it does run 24/7 in terms of its operations. But we are beholden to U.S. banking hours for things like cashing folks out if they want to redeem from the actual platform. But the beauty of some of the relationships that we've already created that will be announced soon are that we're going to have stable token issuers that'll actually be creating and redeeming off of our platform. So you can fund an actual creation of a stable token. That stable token then can actually be created and it can be sent on a different blockchain to the actual destination wallet address that the actual user for the create wants to have. So we think that there's a place for both stable tokens as well as cash and tokenized deposits in the ecosystem that we're building. And we also recognize that some of our key partners like Galaxy, Wintermute, and B2C2 will also be performing, kind of those creates as well on behalf of clients.
And those are some really cool, interesting partners you guys have launched here. And you just announced a new one today. You mentioned it earlier in the interview, which is Crypto.com Exchange, joining you guys as your latest launch partner here. Tell us a little bit about obviously they're big, but tell us a little bit specifically about what this means in terms of effects for Lynq Network and how exchanges are playing a role here.
Yeah. So Jason, thanks for the shout out to the Crypto.com team. They really are, really early believers and supporters of this project. They understand the value of being attached to a network and creating a community of users and allowing for an on-ramp and an off-ramp to exchanges. The exchanges right now are obviously somehow beholden to either stable tokens or cash deposits. This actually adds a new rail for them, whereby clients can hold deposits on the Lynq platform, gain interest on it, and then on-ramp to the exchange to immediately have that recognized as collateral and buying power. It's really, really powerful, and it's been part of our plan from the very, very early days, recognizing the deepest pools of liquidity really are the market makers, the stablecoin issuers, as well as the exchanges. So we're delighted to have Crypto.com on board with us, and we can't wait to work with that team to build out the functionality, and they're going to be with us on day one.
Yeah, 100% second that, 100%. And I think it's what JD touched on cannot be emphasized enough, that the cash leg of the cycle has been and continues to be a historical weakness in the digital asset marketplace in the United States. I would argue more broadly than that, but in the United States for purposes of this project. And I will say that to provide additional rails, a third rail, if you will, a good one in this case, that gives you optionality in the face of a historically unreliable banking system that is subject to the vicissitudes of the political changes. And while maybe benefiting from tailwinds now, they could likewise, in a period of time, become headwinds, as well as a stablecoin ecosystem that is going through a regulatory transition, and its exact situation is yet to be determined. We're providing, I think, an evergreen, compliant solution that will, at a minimum, permit users to diversify their settlement and treasury management tools, and we think will provide a competitively superior alternative to the other tools available in the marketplace.
Makes sense. And we're excited for this. We hope to be tracking this from day one as well on stm.co. So I know that we'll be working closely on that. But curious then, you have great launch partners. I'm assuming that you're going to want more, right? So my understanding is that it's not for everyone. It's, I think, a little bit more institutionally focused, is my understanding. But what would be maybe some of the other counterparties that you think are either missing and not there yet, or you want to double down on to onboard?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is, for us, there's really a matter of creating an ecosystem, and that's the most important thing. We began our outreach efforts dating back to December of last year. We now have almost 30 counterparties that either have an onboarding application or have completed onboarding at the broker-dealer already. And we're super proud of that. But we're also working with distribution partners, Jason, that can force magnify our ability to get the entire industry on this platform. Because we do recognize that the success of this is predicated upon having the entire industry together and solving for the market fragmentation that currently does exist. By example, one example of a client that has already completed onboarding and we're excited to welcome is Archax Exchange. It's an exchange that's known to you guys. They've been doing amazing stuff within the digital asset space, certainly operating an exchange as well as multiple other business lines. And that's just a small example of, kind of one of the clients that we're welcoming on board and really happy to be partnered and working with.
That's fantastic. And my understanding is they're also jumping into the US. I think they just acquired a BD here too. So very exciting. Very nice, guys. Last question for you guys. Treasuries obviously have exploded in the tokenization world, right? As kind of like that killer use case so far. And we've seen other things up the risk curve. What do you guys see in the future of transactions? Do you guys see like risk on transactions going on? Obviously, I think you guys are doing some of that with TFND, but what about going up the risk curve?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that our users has consistently told us is that, with reference to this platform, they're looking for an asset that's highly regulated, an asset that invests in a portfolio of dollars and invests in a portfolio of treasuries, and not much other than that. And I think that that's really important for the business that we're building right now. If we wanted to, which we don't, we obviously can get involved in DeFi protocols. We could juice the yield. We could deliver 20% if we wanted to. We're looking at basically monitoring, the portfolio, having it deliver, yield that's consistent with what you would get investing in short-term duration U.S. Treasuries, likely the first 6 months outside the curve.
Yeah, I agree with JD. I think you can design a product that increases potential economic upside at the expense of a higher risk profile. This is meant to be a settlement system first, and concomitantly with that, one that also delivers yield for cash that's in transit. What is critical, however, is for a settlement system to work that it needs to be stable, and stability isn't really consistent with risk assets. So as we think of this as an alternative to unreliable banking rails or influx stablecoin rails, we need to deliver a product that is that takes risk-based concerns out of the mindset of folks running the treasury desks at our clients. And this does it. Not because we can. There's plenty of products that think about this different. This is a settlement plus yield-bearing ecosystem. And it's premised on stability, confidence, and compliance.
Fantastic. I'm glad that you guys actually had that answer, because it's something that I think a lot of people that are either thinking about joining in will probably be thinking like, okay, well, we want to make sure it's reliable and good for the purposes of Lynq Network. JD, Alan, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and I'm excited to dive in even deeper in a future webinar, which everyone watching, keep an eye out for an announcement on that. JD, Alan, thank you.
Thanks for having us on the show, Jason.
Jason, thanks very much.